This is a Puget Soundkeeper presentation. Hi everyone out there. I'm Eloise Harris, Community Engagement Director at Puget Soundkeeper, and welcome to day one of our virtual Salute Week. To kick things off, I had the pleasure of interviewing Senator Mona Doss, this year's Inspiration Award recipient. Each year, as part of our Salute to the Sound Auction Gala, Puget Soundkeeper recognizes an individual who has shown excellence in the stewardship of a healthy Puget Sound ecosystem through our Inspiration Award. Within a short time, Senator Doss has made an indelible mark in Olympia because of her work on housing, transportation, equity, and environmental justice, and has demonstrated a deep commitment to racial justice and solidarity work by mentoring and supporting women of color to be in legislative roles, and most recently, inspired Opportunity PAC, an organization that's focused on getting Black women elected to public office. So please enjoy the interview. And if you haven't already, please RSVP for our live Salute event this Friday and all our other free events this week by visiting us at pugetsoundkeeper.org or finding us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Aloha. So Senator Doss, thank you so much again for making time for this interview today. If you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Oh, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Mona Doss. I have the honor of representing the 47th District, which is Kent, Covington, and Auburn, and a little slice of Renton and a teeny tiny bit of Black Diamond as the senator from the 47th District.
So Senator Doss, could you tell us a little bit about what got you into politics and what made you decide to become a senator for the 47th District?
Well, that's a story I love to tell. My story starts with a crazy dream. I don't know about you, but I do my best thinking in the shower. And one day I was visiting my brother, and I got out of the shower and I said to him and his girlfriend, who is now his wife, and the mother of my beautiful two nephews, and I said to him, I said, I'm going to be a senator. And we both just looked at each other and we just kind of like shrugged and laughed, because in my family, I'm very classically Indian. Half of my family are doctors and the other half are engineers. And I'm already sort of the outlier of the family, having been in business development, having been an entrepreneur, and having run my own business. So when we just kind of laughed, and it was one of those ideas that I shrugged, and we all have crazy ideas about our future, right? And this was probably 12 or 13 years ago. And I just put it on the shelf. And then sometimes I would dust it off and bring it down and dust it off and look at it again and put it back on the shelf. And this was that big idea that I had that just kept coming back to me over time. And then I was walking my dog one day. And believe it or not, my dog has more energy than me. And he was pulling, and he doesn't like to stop. So if I have to stop for whatever reason, he starts barking and pulling. And so I saw a sign. Literally, I saw a sign, and it said Pramila Jayapal for State Senate. And I will never forget that moment. And I get verklempt every time I talk about this story, because it was the first time that I knew by her name that she was Indian. And I also knew by her name that she was a woman. And so it was the first time in my entire life that I had seen my crazy dream of running for office on a sign in front of my face. And my dog is pulling and barking, and I am standing in front of that sign for Pramila, Congresswoman Jayapal, and I'm proud to call her my friend and mentor now. And I cried for about 5 minutes. And I was overcome with emotion, realizing, and I told myself in that moment, if she could do it, I could do it. And that is why representation truly matters. This is why I work so hard to do the work that I do, because I don't know which young woman or young man or someone my age or even older that I'm inspiring by doing the work that I do. So yeah, that's my story about how I sort of was inspired. And then the sort of give you goosebumps on your arms end of the story is not only is she my dear mentor and friend now, but I actually have her office. So my state senate office is Pramila's old office, which I just told her that a couple weeks ago. I had never told her that, and we both had a good laugh. And it just really shows you that dream big and keep going, and don't let anyone discourage you from your big, crazy dream, because representation matters. And that's what happens when you bring different legislators in from different backgrounds. I wasn't groomed to be a legislator. In fact, I tell this story all the time. They say it takes 7 times for a woman to be asked to run for office before she'll consider it. They say it takes 10 times for a woman of color to be asked before she'll consider it. That's consider, not say yes, that's consider. And then they always ask people, it's a trick question, how many times was I asked to run for office? The answer is 0. Nobody looked at me or my skills or my ability or anything about me or my background and said, hey, Mona, maybe you should run for office. So me running for office came from within. It came from a desire to serve my community and to serve and be a different voice at the table. I always say, we need a loud, brown, and proud woman at the table. And that's me. I always tell the story that there were 12 people in the state of Washington that thought I could win. There were 12 people in the state of Washington that really thought I had what it took to be a legislator and to be a change maker, and 12 people in the state of Washington who believed in me. Luckily, I was one of them. And I think, if anyone wants to take anything from my life or my talk here today, is that you have to believe in yourself, because nobody else will. You're not your spouse, not your friends, not your family, not your mentors. You have to believe in yourself. And that is the reason that I was able to get elected, was because I believed in myself first. I had these 11 other people who did believe in me, and I'm grateful for them. They know who they are, and I'm so grateful for them. And really, I hope that people who are watching this, if they don't have the perfect resume, I didn't have the perfect resume. As I mentioned to you, nobody asked me to run. Nobody. And so you don't have to have the perfect resume. What you have to have is the desire to help. You have to have the desire to bring your community along. You have to have the desire to mentor others. And you have to have the desire to make a difference. And know that what you bring to the table is enough. You are enough. And I think most of us, especially women, we need permission to go after our dreams. So if you are somebody who needs permission to go after your dreams, I give you that permission. And you are enough. And the world needs you to come alive. Please exercise your civic duty and make sure everybody exercises their civic duty shortly. We need you.
So, Senator Doss, how does it feel to be recognized with a Puget Soundkeeper Inspiration Award, and also to be recognized for your work as an environmental and clean water shiro and leader?
When I just found out I won this award, it was, as I mentioned to you earlier, we do this work not to win awards. We do this work because we are driven to serve our communities, to serve our cities, to serve our state, to serve the globe. One of the things I'm so proud about in Washington is we are really the true environmental leaders. And whenever I do go to conferences, and I do get to speak about the legislation that I've passed in great detail in conferences, people just come up to me and share that Washington is truly an environmental leader, and that the legislation that we pass in Washington does influence other states. So what's really exciting about the work that I do and the work I'm called to do and the work I'm driven to do, I have my MBA in sustainable business. So I'm a tree hugging, hippie, and it's a green MBA from Pinchot University, or BGI. Folks know it as Bainbridge Graduate Institute. And we're tree hugging hippies, and we are changing the world. And like I said, I don't do this work to win awards. So when I found out I did win this award, I was really honored, frankly, and very touched, and very grateful. It's always surprising when you get, recognized for the work that you would do anyway, right? I'm not do this work for awards. I do this work to do the work. One of my professors in grad school, one of my co-founders of the grad school, she says, it's all good work. So whatever it is that you're doing for the environment or for social justice or for healthcare or education or whatever it is that you're doing, whatever you're called to do, it's all good work. And we need all of us to do it together as a team. This just happens to be my calling. And I'm so honored to be recognized. So thank you. That just means so much to me. You have no idea. The key to passing legislation is not only to have a sponsor, the legislator, me in this case, and then in the House side, Representative Strom Peterson did such a great job. He actually passed the original bill in Edmonds 10 years ago, the Reusable Bag Act. And so really the coalition of Puget Soundkeepers, Zero Waste Washington, the Aquarium, and many, many others, environmental groups. I mean, what's so special about the Reusable Bag Act is that we had labor involved. We also had the large grocers and the small grocers. We had the chemical industry was involved as well. And together we passed this legislation, and that's really what it is. It's a coalition, and I can't do it alone, and you all can't do it alone either. So together we really can pass this legislation, and it's just really instrumental to have a team. I'm also working with the same coalition to pass the styrofoam bill. We did pass it out of the Senate this year. This year. And then next year, we know we'll be able to pass it out of the House as well. Because it's time for us to ban toxic chemicals. And one of the things I'm thinking about now with the fires, my own mother had to evacuate from Oregon, from her home in Oregon. And the fires got so close to her that she couldn't breathe, right? They were about a mile from her house. They were never going to reach her because the fire would have had to jump the river, but they were so close that she evacuated to my brother's home in Chicago. And, one of the things I started to realize, I read somewhere, is, you think forest fire, you think woods and trees and brush. And then all of a sudden you realize once it starts closer to the city, you're burning cars and tires and computers and electronics. And then you start to realize that the toxic chemicals that we've put in this earth are now burning. And that is the air that we were breathing for those few weeks where we couldn't go outside. And it was just a big wake-up call. I mean, obviously I have an MBA in hippie. So, I really, truly do know that the systems are all connected, and, that the toxic chemicals that we are putting into the earth won't decompose in the same way. And so just the fires, I think, really exacerbated everything, right? It's showing us now we have our forests were unhealthy. Now they're gone. How much wildlife did we lose, and how many chemicals did we release into the air that now many of us were breathing? And so really the coalition of the environmental organizations together can help us pass bills like the styrofoam ban. This year we're doing the EPR bill, extended producer responsibility. It's always been my sort of mantra is if it can't be recycled, reused, or composted, it should not be produced. So I'm drinking this lovely bottled water, and this can be recycled. This cannot. So, hey, Perrier, what can you do? We need to know, if Perrier had to get back every single top, I can guarantee you they'd figure out how very quickly make something that was reusable, recyclable, or compostable. But because they don't receive back their own product that they produce, And that's why the EPR bill is so exciting and so important. And I'm so proud to be the champion. Senator Reuben Carlisle, the chair of the Environment Committee, once said, called me the single-use plastic warrior. And I wear that hat and shield proudly.
If there's anything else that you want to add in regards to the role environmental organizations like Puget Soundkeeper or like Zero Waste Washington and so on, why they're important, but also especially during times of crisis, like since the start of this pandemic, or I know with certain agencies how they've reacted to the pandemic, it's made them decide to roll back, on sort of enforcing, different environmental policies and so on and guidelines. I'm curious, if environmental organizations like Puget Soundkeeper, if their role, what role do they play during these times of just uncertainty?
I think, like my grad school professor, co-founder said, it's all good work. And I think really what we need to do is just work together. If everyone does their part with the thing that they're passionate about or whatever brings them alive, for me, it's connecting and mentoring the next generation of elected BIPOC women leaders, and doing this environmental work. I'm also been in the mortgage housing industry for 15 years. So I focus on housing justice and rent reform and mortgage reform, credit score reform. Those are my areas of expertise, really, is the housing and the environment, and where those two things intersect. I can tell you about a really cool bill I'm going to bring up this year. We're calling it Driving on Sunshine, and it is going to require every home that is constructed, every new built in the state of Washington over a certain population number, to wire the home for both EVs, electric vehicles, as well as solar panels. So that's why we're calling it Driving on Sunshine, because the solar panels can power your EV and the solar panels can also power your home. And so that's why we're calling it Driving on Sunshine. So that's a bill that I'm introducing, which was actually an idea from one of my constituents. So I'm really proud to bring that forward, and very exciting. That should either go to the Transportation Committee or the Housing Committee. I doubt it'll go to the Environment Committee. So I'm trying to spread out my bills. We're only allowed to have 2 priority bills in each committee, so trying to spread them out. COVID is changing a lot for our session next year.
Yeah, no, that's so exciting. Hearing you, talk about how these issues are intersected or how they intersect and how they're overlapping. It definitely, at least for me, it's like we don't live single issue lives, So,
well, I mean, as Pramila likes to say, right? We don't. She's not a mom on Monday and an Indian woman on Tuesday, right? So for me, it's like I'm not an aunt on Monday, a woman of color on Tuesday, and a legislator on Thursday. I am all those things at all the same time. And one of the issues that I have with Olympia is that we try to solve these problems in silos, and they can't be, right? So that's why this Driving on Sunshine bill is a great example. That could go to housing, that could go to transpo, and that could also go to the Environment Committee, because it does touch all 3. And many of our bills touch multiple issue areas. And so one of the things that I was really excited about last year or last session, Patty Kuderer, who's, dear friend and mentor, chair of the Housing Stability and Affordability Committee, she realized how mental health was tied together with housing insecurity. And so we had a joint committee hearing. It was awesome, on housing as well as behavioral mental health. And so that joint committee was basically like, how can we solve this problem together? Because you can't really unwind them. And when you start to look at drug addiction, when you start to look at, so many of our systems are, obviously now I'm a silver lining kind of person. My family moved to America when I was 8 months old with $6. So I don't really have a choice other than to be an optimist. And so what I like to say is that, we have to be able to solve these problems. We can't solve these problems with the same mentality and the same people that created them. We have to bring in new people. We have to have diversity. We have to have diversity of thought, diversity of location, diversity of everything to solve these critical problems. And we can't solve them in silos. They do need to be seen as systems. What COVID has done, the silver lining in my mind, is people like you and I who have suffered at the hand of many of these broken systems. We are no longer can we deny that Black and brown people are treated differently. No longer can we deny that Black and brown people have more environmental justice issues. No longer can we deny that Black and brown people are affected. I mean, the folks that aren't doing well right now in COVID, the ones that can't be like you and I and Zoom all day long, are the frontline workers. And they're the ones that are getting COVID at a higher rate. They don't have the best insurance. I mean, we are now realizing what you and I knew all along, that these systems were broken. Now, I don't think anyone can deny anymore how broken these systems are. What I'm excited about, I'll tell you what, there's so many strong, powerful BIPOC women to look up to. I aspire to be one as well. And the biggest compliment I do get is when people tell me that I've inspired them in some way. I just can't even tell you how special that is for me.
I hope you enjoyed the interview, and many thanks again to Senator Doss for your service and work in safeguarding our waters and communities. To hear more from Senator Doss, sign up for our live webinar this Thursday, October 22nd at 6 p.m., titled Resilience in a Time of Crisis, a conversation on community action, clean water, and building healthy communities. Joining us will be our Youth Award recipients, the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps, Bridget Ray from the Na'a Ilahi Fund, Jill Mangaliman from Got Green, and Marquis King Mason from Citizens for a Healthy Bay and Sunrise Tacoma. And remember to join us tomorrow, same time, same virtual place, for another Puget Soundkeeper video. Thank you for watching, and remember to find us on our socials for updates on all our virtual week events. Aloha. This is a Puget Soundkeeper presentation.